Fever 2. Spring Fever came out in 2009. While I was watching it, I was looking at the look of the movie and I was trying to figure out like what it has this It Follows type thing where it's like it looks like it takes place in the 80s, but they have technology from the present day. And then when I was looking stuff up on it, and I saw it was directed by T West or Ty West, and I was like, oh, that's why. Because Ty West, I'm gonna call it Ty West. Ty West is the guy that did House of the Devil and The Innkeepers. He did Sacrament too, but I haven't seen that. And he's really good at making movies look like they were made in the 80s. Because like House of the Devil takes place either late 70s or early 80s, but it looks like it was filmed like back then. Like if you just turn it on, you'd be like, wow, what's this old movie? But it was actually made like in 2000 after this. I'm drinking. A while back, they made a new can for Rockstar, and they changed the flavor, and it's not as good. And I don't really drink these that much anyway. I just kind of feel, I don't know, I'm tired today. I've had this for 3 weeks. It's been sitting in my fridge. Before we jump too far, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, share, turn your notifications on, because this month we're going to get crazy, and there's no schedule. And I'm planning to do as many prom movies as I can. And this movie, that's why we're starting with part 2, because I haven't done part 1. We're doing part 2 because part 2 takes place at a prom. And it picks up right after the first one with Ryder Strong. Spoiler alert, Ryder Strong appears to be the sole survivor of the original. But he's all fucked up, and he gets out of the water, and he stumbles to the road where... I haven't seen the original since like 2005, since around when it hit DVD. So I don't remember. I just remember that crazy kid doing all the kicks and shit. But I thought they were a little more secluded than that. I mean, it looked like he didn't walk very far before he got on a main road where a school bus comes and hits him, and he just kind of explodes. Poor Ryder Strong. Poor Shawn Hunter. That's Shawn Hunter, Corey's best friend from Boy Meets World. Splattered. Sometimes I wonder why they bring people back just to kill them. Wes Craven says they do it. They bring the final girl back for the second one just to kill her and show you that all bets are off and nobody's safe. But in this case, it was kind of like, he literally did nothing. He's in this movie for maybe 3 minutes. Which is funny because then the credits come on and his name's in the opening credits. It's like, not anymore. He was starring in it. He didn't even make it to the credits. And so the bus pulls over. It's covered in blood. A cop shows up, Officer Olson, and he's kind of like, hey, everybody just chill. You hit a moose. Apparently there's a lot of moose in the area that get killed often by vehicles. And then after they leave, he like finds a bloody watch and a bloody boot, because the moose was wearing a watch and boots. And he kind of... I mean, I guess it's cool. All the kids on the bus were like... Not all of them, but, one of the girls puked all over the window and stuff. So, like, he kept the situation calm inadvertently, but still, it's like, okay, what do you plan to do about this moose? And is the bus driver in trouble for running over a human? And the bus driver just takes the kids back to school. So if I'm in that situation, I mean, I guess if it was just an animal, I probably wouldn't be that worked up over it, but it's like, you just ran over somebody, and now I'm off to math class? What the fuck? And there's cartoon opening credits that are showing... There's weird cartoons in this movie. Like the opening credits and the ending credits. But they're telling the story through the cartoon. So you have to... It's not just some guy who thinks he's good at drawing. There's like... The story's being told. It's showing the water company. The bottled water company. And it's called Down Home Water. And this water is responsible. It shows like a bottle in the water, like in the creek. So it's like this water is coming from who knows where, and it's people are drinking it, and it's fucking them up. But then it's getting in people that aren't drinking it. It's in the water supply because people litter. So people are drinking it against their will, and it's fucking them up too. So at school, it's the day of the prom, which seems weird. Aren't proms? I didn't go to prom, so I don't know. But I mean, you don't have to go to know what day it takes place. aren't proms usually on a Saturday? Not after school on Friday night? It's not like, "Wait, we're going to have a mixer after school." Like, it's a thing. It's another thing. Proms always take place at the school. In real life, proms are never at the school. Nobody has prom in their gymnasium. But every movie, it's in the fucking gymnasium. But anyway, it's prom day, and our main character, John, who's like the smartest kid in school, and he has a crush on Cassie. And Cassie and her boyfriend, Mark, have broken up. Because her boyfriend's an asshole. But Mark can't get it through his head that they're broken up, so he goes, and he knows that John has a thing for her, so he goes after John. He's like, "Oh, I don't care what she says. We're still together. She's still mine. You stay away." And like kind of beats him up a little bit and throws him into his class. And then his teacher sends him to the principal's office, and like he gets in trouble. "Hey, you're not supposed to be getting beat up here." But I mean, that kind of sets up our typical like 80s rom-com plot, the guy loves girl's going out with asshole. I mean, this John is Ducky, and he's going in for his. It's like, "I'm gonna get the girl now. Now that she's seen that he's an asshole, I'm gonna make my move." And John later is in biology with his best friend Alex. They're talking about the prom, and Alex keeps going back and forth like prom is stupid, prom is lame. And then but they're talking and they're not supposed to be, so the teacher kicks Alex out of class. So Alex goes out. I think he's just supposed to stand in the hall. Whenever I got kicked out of class, you're supposed to stand outside the door. But he just wanders off. And he's wandering along, and he hears a girl in the classroom crying. For some reason, this girl is sitting at like the middle desk in an empty classroom by herself crying. And so he's like, "Oh, what's going on in there?" And so he walks over, and he's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And she's like, "This guy dumped me." And he's like, "Oh, what? Well, forget that guy. That guy's an asshole, and you deserve way better than that." And she's like, "Really? You really mean it?" He's like, "Yeah." So she takes him into the bathroom, and she goes down on him. And she's got like this herpes right here that they zoom in on before she does it. And then afterwards, he's like, "Hey, so, you want to go to the prom with me tonight?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "Really? Why not?" She's like, "This is not a thing. This was just like revenge. And plus, I got to work tonight." He's like, "Oh, really? Okay." And she's like, "But I don't know. Maybe if somebody will cover for me, maybe I'll stop by." Like, which is kind of weird. Like, well, Alex, you're going to be at the prom anyway, date or no date, she just assumes. Oh, and before she got started, though, we did get a little boobage. After school, John walks Cassie home. They talk about their post-high school futures. He's like, "Well, it's prom night, Are you going?" And she's like, "Nah, I'm just going to stay home." He's like, "Are you sure? We could go together." Like, what kind of person does the day of? "Hey, prom's in 3 hours. You want to be my date?" I mean, I understand that she was, like, she should be geared to go because she just broke up with the dude, like, that day. So, I would imagine that up until the breakup, she was prepared to go, so she should have everything she needs to go. But it's still just like, why is this whole prom thing is weird. Like, I'm going to assume that the guy, I think Ty West wrote this movie. I'm going to assume that he didn't go to prom either. And he didn't go to a normal high school as well. But she shoots him down. She's like, "I'm just going to stay home." And he's like, "All right. Looks like it's Bride of the Cannibals," because his nerdy friends invited him to come over and watch Bride of the Cannibals. Like, much like my friends and I would have done in high school. It's like, "What are you going to... No, don't go to that. Let's go rent a movie and do something, and we'll make fun of the thing that we wish we could do and watch movies and hang out with each other." Yeah, nothing against my friends, but come on. Every one of us would have rather been hanging out with a chick. Dancing! There's an incident at the diner that Officer Olson is at, where some guy, I don't know, he just starts bleeding profusely, blood squirting out of, not even his orifices. New orifices form, that blood is squirting out because there's a flesh-eating disease, bacteria, whatever's eating there. It's really weird how it doesn't. This movie doesn't address it at all. Like so far, in fact, this is the first death from it in the movie, and I'm pretty sure this is a good like 30 minutes in, and Olsen starts having flashbacks from the original. And like I said, I don't remember the original, so I can't say. I'm pretty sure that he was in the original, and these are flashbacks from there. But he's just like, oh, this reminds me, and it was like his wheels start turning, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, it's that bottled water. There's something in that water, and it's making people die. It's eating them from the inside out. I have to do something. And just like that, he's cracked the case. Meanwhile, Alex talks John into going to the prom. So much for Bride of the Cannibals. And this is kind of weird because I didn't know you could just show up to prom. Don't you have to like buy tickets? I mean, wouldn't that? I guess that'd be the only prerequisite is you just got to buy a ticket. But these guys are just I think I don't know. Doesn't it cost money to go to prom? I didn't go. Have I made that abundantly clear enough? He's there for a little while, and then he's surprised because he sees Cassie. Cassie, who wasn't going to go, he's like, what the hell? She's here. And she walks up and just kind of all nonchalant, like, oh, hey, how's it going? You came after us. Oh, I see you came too. And then Mark is with her. He's like, what the fuck is why are you talking to me? This is that weird thing where the girl's like, the girl has to know that you like her, but she keeps like rubbing this boyfriend in your face anyway. Like, what are you and then acting like you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? Well, yeah, me and Mark are working things out. Why? It's like, what? I don't know why you think something's going on between us. It's like, then just don't talk to me at all. You know how I feel, so don't talk to me. That's the rule on that, right? And her ex is mad dogging him because he doesn't like him and he wants to beat him up because he kind of beat him up earlier. So he's like, Cassie, go run along. I'm going to just talk to him for a second. And then he gets in his face and like they get into it a little bit and then John gets kicked out. Because it's funny because it's like, because it's twice now that John's got in trouble for a fight that, I mean, this time he did shove him first. And it's not even like Mark's tough. It's just that John is not. So he's like, he can't do anything, but he's so mad that he's like, I'm just going to shove him. And next thing you know, it's like his arms behind his back. He's like, eh. And then the teacher comes. He's like, hey, John, get out of here. And he kicks him out. And then a Ramones cover comes on. Somebody put something in my drink. I don't know whose band doing it is. And neither does Shazam. As Cassie follows John and catches up to him. And she's like, hey, well, what happened? And blah. And like John's had it. John's like, you know what? Blah. And he just goes off on her. Just said everything that he ever thought. And she's like, just leave me alone. And like, you'd have to be, I don't know, just all this stuff. And she's like, oh. And it's because he doesn't realize it. It's not like she's attracted to assholes. But John, all of his life, she's been giving him what they call the shit test. The shit test, my understanding is, this is what girls do when they meet a guy. They put him through all this shit to see what they will take. How much will they take? Is this a guy that will eventually stand up to me and then I can rely on him, or is he going to let me walk all over him? And that's what Cassie's been doing to John his whole life. And finally he snapped. He's hit his breaking point, and now she can respect him. It's not like she's attracted to assholes and that's why she like Mark. She's just not attracted to pussies. And just when you think everything's going to be good and fixed and happily ever after, guys in hazmat suits and guns show up and they're like, hey, get back in the school. And John's like, I can't, I just got kicked out. And they're like, go back there. And they shove him back in the school. They chain all the door and they start locking the school down. Then they start breaking windows and throwing in smoke bombs and shit. And inside, Cassie sees Mark dancing with another girl. So it's like, I don't know where Cassie's head's at. She's like, I like him, but I like him. Like, because you're kind of thinking, okay, you never really like Mark. You're just with him because he's the rich kid and whatever. He's popular. She's not. Because one thing about this movie is that I like about it is that the actors are not beautiful. They're not very attractive. None of them are very attractive at all. And it's refreshing because it makes it more realistic. It has like this 80s feel to it. And the actors are not attractive. Like even Cassie's the main girl and she's not that good looking. But she's good looking enough where you can see like John would like her because it's not like he's a great looking guy. I mean, the prom queen girls, like she's supposed to be hot. She's okay. but there's not like, I mean, it's not like they have these hot 28-year-olds playing high school kids. They're just like normal people. So it's nice. You can watch it. Like, I actually like this movie. I don't remember liking the first one that much, but I did like this one. Oh, and I forgot. There's a scene, though, before. I forget when it happens because I watched this twice. I watched it yesterday and then I watched it this morning. There's this part where, because Alex is starting to, like, feel the effects of the whatever's in him. Like the bacteria, the skin eating, the flesh eating, whatever. And, like, he's got his fingernails. Like, it's kind of like The Fly. Remember The Fly when Jeff Goldblum like pulls his fingernail? It's kind of like that, but this is way worse because he starts like flicking it and the sound that it makes. And he like, it's like sticking out from under the skin, so he pushes it back in and like lifts it up and sticks super glue on it. And then it's so fucking, like, I couldn't watch it. I don't get grossed out that easy, but I was watching that and the sound and looking at it, it's like, oh, like you could feel it. It was so, oh. So the principal from outside, the principal's inside, but one of the guys in the hazmat suits shoots the principal in his head. I don't really understand. I understand why guys in hazmat suits would be there. I don't understand what these guys are doing. I don't know. They're like the Trump riot police or something. It's like, what are you guys here for our safety, or are you here to annihilate us? What's going on here? Because they're just like, all right, here's smoke bombs. We're shooting. We're opening fire. And it's like, Jesus, are you guys, what? Who sent you? And then I think they're like in a locker room. Because John finds Alex. And Alex is starting to have more irritation. It's not just his fingernail. Because now we get some wiener. As Alex realizes his wiener is in trouble. And he should not have put it in that girl's mouth. Because he unzips his pants and he's looking at it. And it's like oozing this pus. And it's really gross. And he's freaking out. Because like, bro, my dick. Like anything but my dick. Like, take my arm, take my leg, take my neck. No, but he's like, not this. No. He's like, I knew I shouldn't have trusted that girl. Because he saw the mark on her face. Just before she started, he was like, He did it anyway. Fucking idiot. So he's like, fuck this. I'm going to the library. Which is weird because this movie is 2009. He runs to the library. He's like, I don't know. Not everybody had a smartphone yet. So I guess, I don't know. It's just weird. I'm going to go to the library and find a book. It's even weirder because we catch up to him later on and he found a fucking book that says what's wrong with him. It's like, I can't find a book in a library when I'm under normal circumstances. And my dick's falling off. Oh, where's the nonfiction section? It's like, no, that's not happening. So just when we thought Officer Olson was going to save the day, he gets picked up. It's his cousin. He's like, get me out of here. And they're just leaving town. So much for being a hero. Olson is out of there. And as for Alex, back in the library, it's the end of the road. And the characters aren't turning into zombies, but they are changing. It's just like, it's almost like just their blood wants out of them. And weird pussy stuff, and they start getting these bubbly, they kind of look kind of like the zombies in Planet Terror, but they're not zombies. And it's funny because this movie doesn't really ever bother to explain. There isn't any kind of expert who's like, I know. The closest we get is Alex in this fucking book that he found. It's like, oh, it's a skin-eating parasite, and it's going to do all this. And it's like, there's nothing we can do. And he found a book that... But it's not fully explained. It's just like, how's that happen? Once you got it, you're fucked, and you're going to die. And as John's looking down at him, he looks at his, like on his hand. He starts seeing this bubbled up flesh, and he's like, oh, I have it. I'm going to die. I'm going to suffer the same fate I'm watching him go through, because Alex is in agony. He's like, oh, no. And so he's like, I don't want to go through that. So he grabs Cassie, and they run to the shop room. And they turn on the table saw, and he's got his arm, he ties off, and he's like, they chop his hand off, and then she takes the torch and cauterizes it. I don't know why she knows how to use a torch. And then he's all good, except then Mark walks in, and Mark's like, oh, I told you to stay away from my girl. which is really weird. Like, because Mark just came from the gym where people are basically exploding and there's blood everywhere. Like, even Alex, or not Alex, but John and Cassie are covered in blood, and this dude's like, hey, that's my girl. It's like, why? That's the last thing that should be on your mind right now. Is being jealous about what your girlfriend's doing. So when he busts in, he hits her in the head with something. I forget what it was, but like knocks her down. Doesn't knock her out. Then he goes after John and starts attacking him. I think he goes for where the hand was. He's like, oh, I see your weakness. He starts attacking that, and John's just like, ah. And so Cassie finds a nail gun, and she's like aiming, and this always bugs me. Shit like this in general when they do stuff in movies where it's like, you can't even do that. That's annoying. But this one, it's a nail. You can't just pick up a nail gun. First of all, most nail guns are pneumatic, so they have to be hooked up to like a generator. Not a generator, but is it a generator? I forget. They gotta be hooked up to it though. You can't just. She's holding. There's no hoses coming out of it. There's no plug. She just has a nail gun. She's like 10 feet away from him. She's just like shoots it like it's a gun. And secondly, like to make the nail come out, you have to push it, and then the nail shoots into it. Like, they're designed to not be able to do that. They're specifically designed to not be able to do what she did with it. And the person writing the movie is like, nail gun seems cool. I've seen Lethal Weapon 2. You can just shoot people with them. No, you can't. It's a safety feature that makes it so that you can't. And they have to be hooked up to something that gives them power. So John and Cassie escape the school. And they make a run for it, but they run into the hazmat guys, and the hazmat guys grab John. Cassie gets away. John's like, go! And Cassie's like, hey, you don't got to tell me twice. Cassie bolts. She is gone. She goes out on the road. She sees headlights. She flags it down. Car stops. It almost kind of feels like the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre when Sally gets in that pickup and drives off, except it's fucking Officer Olsen and his cousin. They're like, what's going on? She's like, get me out of here. They're like, okay. Even though she's covered in blood, they know there's an infection going around, and they're just like, okay, hop in, and they drive off. And later, John, she didn't mention John. She wasn't like, well, my friend John. She's like, just go. Then we're done with them, and we go to the next scene, and it's Herpy Girl. She's at work. Herpy Girl's a stripper. And Herpy Girl has more. It is spread. Like, she takes her top off and she's got got some boobage, and it's not the good kind. And then it's weird because how she infected Alex, but Alex turned before her because she already had signs way earlier that day that she doesn't have any problems. So like, she's at work giving a guy a lap dance, and then she like just vomits on him. And some of it gets in his mouth. It was so gross. It's like, it's all over him. And then he goes in the bathroom. He's like, and he's spitting her puke out of his mouth. It's so fucking gross. Like, if I was the actor having to do that scene, if that really got in my mouth, I would throw up for real. And this movie is not like gore or gross for the sake of being gross. It's not over the top gross. It just has a couple parts where it's like, oh, why did I have to see that? Which is kind of what's good. You're not expecting it. And then it happens. You're like, I want to see that. And then the movie it fades back into that cartoon, like the opening credits. And it kind of wraps up in cartoon form, and then it's over. So I didn't really have a badass for this movie because, I don't know, everybody's kind of a victim. Nobody saved the day. Everybody in this movie is kind of a piece of shit. The only person that wasn't a piece of shit in this movie was John, but John didn't do anything, badass worthy. He just kind of took a lot of shit. He's the opposite of a badass. Everybody just kind of walked all over him, and he just took it. So, no badasses. What did we learn? Survival tales. Don't get oral sex from a girl with herpes tracks all over her face. Don't fuck in the pool. And don't litter. That's all I got this week. But stay tuned, because next one is going to be more prom hijinks. See you next time.